So, hey, here we are, another glorious live stream behind the fiends. How's everybody out there in YouTube land? I really got to update that intro because I just realized that I kind of went through a rebrand after New Year's, and none of that stuff in the intro for me wise doesn't match up to what I'm rocking now. So yeah, I've got to do a little bit of a cleaning up on that, but it still works. It still works. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Behind the Fiends, the old friends of the channel, Dan and Derek, real life Ghostbusters, the hunters of the spooky ookie from Iron City Paranormal, Yinzers. That's what they call people from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There, you learned you something. But welcome back, Iron City Paranormal. What's going on, guys?
Man, every time we're on the show and you have that intro, and it scares the crap out of me when that little girl whispers that she's behind me. And then I realize how terrifying ghost hunting sounds on the surface. But then I think back to like every time we investigate and how goofy we are and realize it's not that scary, but that always brings me back home. So thank you very much for that intro, as always.
I'm glad to contribute to your PTSD, sir.
It does.
Have you ever had that? Have either of you ever had that happen in a real investigation with a voice that clear in your ear?
We have many times, actually. And
we're just kind of immune to it at this point.
Oh, you might be. I'm not. It scares the living hell out of me every effing time. And I was just going to say, we've been doing this almost 8 years. And, we've been to some creepy places, some less creepy places. But anytime that happens, it just sends a chill down your spine whenever you hear stuff like that.
Well, you almost like second guess it. Like, did I actually hear that kind of thing? And the more we do it, it's like you kind of just go with your gut. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I did hear something.
You would get two sounds on a recorder. One, hopefully, would be the whisper. Secondly, you would hear just the sound of just flatulence leaving my body.
I love some of our reactions. Sometimes I actually have a lot of them saved just kind of on the side, the way that like we'll either drop the F-bomb or we'll be falling backwards or like freaking out in some manner, and it's hilarious to me.
Well, you have to put those disclaimers on our videos
about
like adult content, just because our reactions are true, right? We don't like fluff it for any reason. So when we are scared, we react to anybody, we're not immune to anything. So now, like I said, it always just reminds me that like some of this stuff that we do can be creepy, but also
at least I know I'm good at editing some creepy. At least I know I'm good at that.
Your intros are always killer, man. I always get goosebumps with those.
Yeah, they're great. Keep them coming.
Maybe I got a career in filmmaking. You all have been on this channel more than anybody else. I counted. This, I think, is your 6th time with me.
Wow,
that's fantastic.
I think,
that's awesome.
I think you all pretty much get a profit share if I ever make it big on here now, considering you've been on so many times.
It makes it less awkward. You bringing it up makes it less awkward than us bringing that up, so that's good. I'm glad that you're willing to do that. No, I hope you don't get bored of us, but we have a good time with you.
No, that's my thing. That's the God's honest truth. If I was to ever make it big and I have guests and I make money from it, I'm gonna do my best to try to pay that forward to give you all a few shekels here and there to be like, hey, thanks for coming on, because you were part of this and part of why it did what it did and made the money it made, or so why not split it? Don't be greedy.
Yeah, we appreciate that, absolutely. But it's always fun to come on here and between loving talking about all of this stuff and just how we all kind of can connect, and it's always a good time.
And people that are new to your line of call it work because it is work. But at the same time, it's a passion, not profit. You all don't make money on this. This is entirely at your pocket uh, for travel, eating, lodging, the equipment. I mean,
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
it's great.
and recently, Derek and I have started offering house cleansings as well for people that have, spirits in their homes and they can't control, and they're just flat out terrified. And we're doing that at no cost as well. So we're trying to, use our powers for good, so to speak, right? We do have some unique abilities within between Derek and myself, and also Aaron that investigates with us. So anything that we can do to, help people that really just don't understand this kind of stuff. Yeah, like I say, we do it all at free of cost, and we have success in it. So it's been good.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good feedback with this with these kinds of things, and even if it's just giving somebody an ear, they're letting them talk and not feel like they're crazy. It seems like that's half the battle sometimes.
No doubt.
yeah, I mean, I'm a believer. I've had personal experiences. I've said this many times that we've talked, so there's no need of me to just rehash an old story. But to some people, they look at it, it's nothing. And the thing that blows my mind the most is I am a person of faith. Now, I don't go pushing it on everybody, but I am a believer of Jesus and God and all that. But I have found that also within that community of believers, they are typically the biggest skeptics to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is the weirdest thing to me because you believe in a doctrine, the Bible, or if you're any other religion like Book of Mormon or the Torah or the Quran, that we all possess a spirit, right? So we all have a spirit. So soul, whatever you want to call it. So how do you deny that these things cannot be real? It is so. It's just such a.
It's mind-boggling. It really is, and you hit it right on the head. I mean, how do you believe in one thing and not the other? You're absolutely right.
And it's typically not with Catholics. Catholics are like, yeah, this stuff is real because I've watched all kinds of interviews with exorcist man, and they talk about how they've ran into Lucifer himself and different things like that, and all those different things. But I've seen it more in the Protestant side where it's like, no, that's not real. None of that. That's just pseudoscience, and it's blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah, but you're also denying what you believe as well.
Absolutely.
Because
that's the part that I just don't understand.
and I think that's dangerous. To be perfectly honest with you, I think that anything in life, not just spiritual things like this that we do, but anything in life, if you have something that is affecting you, I think the most dangerous thing you can do is ignore it. And I just think it's like I say, it's dangerous, and we see that right now that we're doing the cleansings. That's what we're seeing is there's people that try to ignore these things for as long as they do, and essentially become weakened by the situation. Well, guess what? These spirits, these attachments, these energies, they feed off of fear. They feed off of hesitation. And that's why I say it's usually when when they call us or they ask us to come and do something about it, it's it's a lot more than just a whisper here and there or a shadow moving. It's affecting their lives.
Yeah, it's to the point that it's undeniable.
Yeah,
I mean that's
absolutely.
You're absolutely
right.
right.
It's unfortunate that, like you said, Derek. I mean, they're not crazy, right? I mean, how many people have we gone to them and they said, the doctors even are saying you're just crazy. We had an 85-year-old woman in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. Her doctor put her through a psych evaluation, to see if she had dementia and to see if she had some sort of psychosis. They all came back clear. So what is it?
Well,
enter us.
We've even been to others recently where they have had another another team or medium or whatever come in and say no, there's nothing here, you are just crazy, and for somebody to go in and do that is just like, it's like, why are you even doing this? Why, who are you helping by saying something like that?
And like I said, and it depends, I guess. Like if the doctor's saying that you're crazy, well, at the same time too, uh, going back to religion, well, if she's hearing these things and they're communicating with her, then what does that say about us as Christians when we're talking to God
Mhm.
2, 3, 4, 5 times a day? Are we crazy? Are we?
Mhm.
No. So it just seems to me you're being kind of hypocritical and not showing the care that this person needs. Even if they have dementia, just to tell them flat out, "Oh, you're crazy." That's not good bedside manner. I mean,
True too.
have a heart, you rotten,
Yeah.
At least hear them out. That's
Yeah.
just that. It seems to me that's honestly half the battle. It's just kind of, it's allowing these people to realize these things are happening, that they are not losing their minds. There are other people that go through this and experiences, and that they're not alone. And that to me, at the end of the day, seems like it makes the biggest difference when we do these things.
Kids today scare the hell out of me. Now, and the biggest reason why is because they love to play with this stuff. It
Oh yeah.
scares the hell out of me. I see so many videos. We got a Ouija board. We got, and it's like, this ain't going to end the way you want it to.
Well,
This is not going to end the way you want it.
between that and then doing the Dybbuk box openings and all that, like live, it's
Yeah.
just, why do you even, I mean, what is it that you always say, Dan? We don't, if there's like a 0.01% chance that something could be affecting anything, why mess with it? So
Is, is Lucifer himself coming out of this box and eating your soul worth the social media clout, guys? I mean,
That's exactly right. And also, like,
know,
even beyond the people that open the box, like those boxes, like because we have a Dybbuk box that is actually what we believe is actually a legit Dybbuk box. It was not one that was purchased online. I think we've talked about that before. We've had that at conventions that we take, and we don't flaunt it or anything else. We kind of just use it as a talking point for people that are curious. We have people come up to our table from other they were like other vendors at these conventions, and then they run back and they start running their mouths about, oh, those guys have a Dybbuk box. Dybbuk boxes aren't real. This guy said they're fake online, and it's like, why do you have to spread that? Because we didn't make up the lore of Dybbuk boxes, right?
it's
And
been around.
it's been around for quite a while. I don't. Like I say, like Derek just said, I don't know if what we have has anything in it. I can tell you that we've had some people with some interesting abilities with psychics and mediums that won't go anywhere near the damn thing, not because of what it is, but because they actually think there's an attachment to it, right? So I'm not going to mess with it, and I'm also not going to tell anybody that it's harmless.
would you all mind explaining to the people that are watching what that is? I know what it is. I mean, it comes from from the Jewish religion, that side of the house. But I'll let you all have the floor on that one.
Derek, you want to do this one?
I mean, yeah, what it is it comes from, like you said, the Jewish religion. That's where the actual term Dybbuk comes from, and it's the real premise of it is that it's some kind of force, energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It gets trapped in this box, and it could be anything. I mean, ours is a little it's like a little wooden jewelry box, I think. But the idea is that you trap it in there so it can't get out. You trap it with some type of earth element. One of the ones that we had that actually opened on us, it was it was like a glass vial of dirt. You put some kind of metal in with it, and there was a rusted old spike in one of them. The idea is you pull in all of these different elements and you try to contain it, weaken it, and you don't let it out. On top of that, you wax seal it, so it's completely sealed, completely encapsulated in this wax, to the point where we actually have had to have ours re-waxed. But if you go to break that seal, which is what these people do on these online things, social media events, that's the moment where things can happen. But it dates back for centuries, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the more modern terminology and all of this has come around, more probably within the last 2 decades or so. It's when it's at least been popularized. But the idea of a Dybbuk has been around for a very long time, and it doesn't necessarily have to be negative. It's just something that was affecting someone, and they wanted to get rid of it. And that was how they did it. They trapped it in this item, whatever it could be. I think the more popular one was this humongous, like, armoire almost. That was kind of the first one that popularized the idea. So it could be anything. But we actually at our we would talk about the Mars train station, the show that comes before that, the Mars Spooktacular. The wax, it actually melted at one of these things. It wasn't the Spooktacular. Was it the Rumble?
No, it was the one in July. It was the
Rumble.
Mars. But yeah, it was at Mars Rumble. Yeah.
But the wax actually melted on it. Like, we saw it ponding on our table, and it's like, we got to do something with this. So I actually took it to one of those metaphysical shops here, and I'm like, what do I do? I need to close this up. I'm not chancing this here. So, we caught it in time, but it did, the wax that's completely around this thing started melting off of it.
Yeah, so thankfully it only melted off of the front of it. It didn't melt off the sides, so it was
or the seal or anything. Yeah,
it was always sealed. It never opened. And the one that Derek had mentioned that did open, that was one that he had been given as a gift from his sister after we got our original Dybbuk box. She was, playing into that with his birthday or Christmas or something, and purchased one on eBay. We don't believe that one was a real one by any means. It was very half-assed. It was, had like 3 lines of wax on it holding it. So it did break open in transport because Derek used to carry them everywhere.
Mainly just to get your reaction.
Yeah. So I don't want anybody thinking like we were playing with it and opened it up, because that's not anything that we would come close to doing. But yeah, that one did open up, but nothing happened to us. We're still here.
From research that I've done, like I said, I don't know all that much, but I want to say back in like 1st or 2nd century, I want to say that's how the Pharisees, or maybe the Sanhedrin back then, was how they would cast out demons and trap them in those boxes. Now, I know in Judaism, they used to bury people in caves, kind of like, with the whole thing with Jesus in the cave and rising. But that's how they would bury people, and they would leave them in there until they decomposed, and then they would put the bones into bone boxes. And then they would, I guess, either bury them or they would do something else with them per se. But I'm not 100% sure on the Dybbuk box, but I want to say that came from maybe the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees back then.
Well, I know the term itself, Dybbuk, is Hebrew, but it doesn't actually associate to anything, like I said, negative or evil. It's not like demon or anything. I believe it's like cling, like as an attachment, cling. I think that's the actual translation of what Dybbuk is. I could be wrong, but from the research that I've done, I believe that was the rough translation, and it was Hebrew, which kind of ties into that whole time frame and span.
Oh, so they could have been like trapping the spirit of a loved one that they didn't want to pass on.
I mean,
or something.
there's like no documentation on these things, and we don't know how prevalent it was, or how often they did something like this. So for people to think that it is in something evil is just, that's just playing into the whole lore of it. But yeah, you're right. It could just be that they wanted to keep somebody with them, as messed up as that might be.
Yeah. I do know of one channel, and I do like watching I think his name's Casey. He has a channel called Mindseed TV. Now, I don't know if you've all ever seen Mindseed TV. Now, he did a Dybbuk box opening on his channel. Now, after he did it and instantly regretted, you know that old meme where it says it was at this point he realized he effed up?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So he got this off of the dark web. Now, kids out there in the internet world or YouTube world, wherever you're watching this from, don't play on the dark web. There's nothing good on there. There is a lot of bad stuff on there.
Yeah.
But he got this on there. They sent it to him and he opened it up and it was just some creepy kind of stuff that was in there. Kind of like you said, it was like vials of different things. And he didn't open those, but there was like, I think, a piece of fabric and I want to say a crucifix, which if there's a crucifix in there, that instantly tells you whatever's in this thing's probably not good, right? So time would go on and it was like it progressively like a headache that's coming on, right? It starts out kind of just irritating, then it gets worse. And he documented this. By the time it was done, he had to have a full-on exorcist come to his house and cast this thing out.
Wow.
That's exactly why we wouldn't want to touch it. If there's the slightest chance something like that could be in there, I mean, it's just not worth it. Like you said, it's for what, the clicks, you know? Like
yeah. And he was like, dude, I'll never do this again. I mean, it got to the point where he had to leave his home. And he set up cameras and it was just turning his apartment upside down. It was like poltergeist activity on steroids.
I've seen some of those where they would open it and things happened immediately. And with as much as we've seen and been through and experienced, we don't believe in coincidences. So the moment that you break the seal on one of these things and a picture frame falls behind you or a door slams, it's not a coincidence. It didn't just happen at the same time that you opened that thing. Something else is going on there. And it's, you know, it happens. It does happen. And people get drawn into it because of these things.
And this is probably not a passive spirit if it's moving objects in your house. But who am I to say? I'm not a ghost hunter or paranormal investigator. I'm just a fan of the stuff, really. But most time you get poltergeist activity, that's normally some kind of, you know, a spirit that's not wishing to do you well. And then if you open these Dybbuk boxes, you got to think whatever's inside is probably highly pissed off that it's been trapped in this box for this long.
Regardless of the reasoning. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if your energy, whatever we become after we die, all of a sudden gets trapped in this thing and it's like a genie in a bottle. There's no place, there's nowhere to move. You know, you're there. It's dark. There's no one else around. You could be the nicest guy in the world. I'd be pissed off too.
Yeah, but then there's another here. We're gonna go back to here's the problem, right? Is everything online you can't trust, right? You can't trust that, you know, the video of somebody opening the Dybbuk box and the picture frame falling off the wall. You can't trust that they're not staged. And that's something that we combat every time we put something online, right? Because at no point have Derek or I or anybody that has ever been part of our team, we've never faked one thing. We have no reason to fake anything, you know. And it's a shame whenever we are putting up things that are raw video. We don't have video editing abilities. You know, we don't know how to add things into videos. And all that
just
stuff.
Look at some of the videos that we've made. We don't really have any abilities there.
Yeah, but even like the stuff that should make people question their understanding of reality as they see it. Like when we have a video of, you know, a full body apparition opening a door and walking through the door and having it close behind him, you know, and we have other videos where there is, you know, clear as day voices coming through, or a thermal image of spirits standing at the end of the hallway that I don't think we've gotten with you, John. When we actually caught it The most recent time we were investigating the hotel in West Virginia with it, we did the your last time we were on your show, we did that.
I do think that we sent that to you.
You were at the Paracon, but you did send me that video.
Okay, so like we're at the disadvantage because of those videos where people are, you know, opening boxes and possibly triggering things to fall and all that kind of crap. Nobody believes anything anymore, you know. And again, we're not out to make people believe or you know gain worldwide
fame or notoriety or whatever. That's not why we're doing this.
No, so I mean it puts us at a disadvantage as well. So it's I wish that we could all be sincere with everything that we post, right? But unfortunately we don't have that luxury in life.
The problem is what's hurt your all's research and or the fact that you're trying to put that awareness out there is reality television. Yep. Period, point blank. And social media. With, like you said. Now, with the Mind Seed TV video, I think that was legit. Now, and the reason I say that is because I'm a fan of his stuff. Do I think there's some stuff that I could call BS on that he puts on his channel? Yeah. I would probably say roughly 75% of the stuff he probably puts on there is probably it's entertainment at best. But that video, just the look in his eyes, he knew I just played with something that I probably should not have played with. Because he had, I mean, you could read it. I'll send you all the video and let y'all watch it and y'all can gauge it for yourself. But for me, looking at him, he was like, guys, I think I screwed up here.
Bit off a little more than he could chew.
But yeah, then there's some people, like you say, they'll do it on TikTok, which I don't think exists anymore. I think it finally died and got banned, I think. But they would have like, oh, I got a Dybbuk box today, and it's like a Air Jordan shoe box that they've wrapped rubber bands around and put some Yankee candle wax on it or something, and just making fun. And yeah, okay, have a laugh, but me, with the personal experiences I've had in my life and the ones that my grandmother even had, a woman who didn't just say things to say them, just to spin yarns of fantastical things of fiction. I believe it. Wholeheartedly believe it.
Sure.
I have seen it, not necessarily felt it, but it let me know it was there, and I almost pooped myself when it let me know I was there. And you all know the story. I told you I was living next to that graveyard where there was a lot of desecrated graves. And once I went down there and made peace with them, guess what happened? All the stuff that was happening around my home stopped.
No coincidences, man.
So I'm like, that's real, dude. I don't care what anybody says, because once I went down there and started being friendly to them, and I got into a habit where I was going down and having conversations with them like a crazy person, just sitting there having conversations with them. And never again did I have any knocking on my door, anything opening and closing. The neighbor who never lived in his house, it was a summer home, the lights coming on and off on their own. He had no timers on them, just different things like that. And I felt like I was like, okay, I get it. These spirits have ruled this place down here for so long. This is theirs. And now I have moved into this, and I'm impending on what they see as their territory. So I had a friend who told me, you need to go down there and make peace with them and just let them know that you want to coexist with them. And once I did that, radio silence, no more.
Well, thankfully, somebody kind of had your back there and convinced you to do that, because otherwise it could have still been happening. You know, there would have been no end in sight.
And who knows? It could have got dangerous.
Absolutely.
You know, it could have.
You never know where that line is.
Dangerous. So, I mean, you had Civil War veterans in that graveyard. There was children that were buried in that graveyard that died horrible deaths. I mean, back in the day, viewers, it is so morbid, but for some reason, they felt that it was awesome to put the cause of death on gravestones. So on this one, and not all gravestones back then, but a lot of them they would. And on this particular one, I remember it still burned into my brain. It was the mother and all three of her kids, and it said died in a fire.
Oh,
Jeez.
no.
So I'm sure if their spirits are probably still roaming around there, they're not happy, because they died in a fire,
Yeah, really.
and the Civil War veteran. That war was not, a day at Happy Land. So who knows how that dude passed on, who knows? So
Yeah, no good ending there.
so I had to go down there as the good neighbor and be like, hey, I'm here. I'm not going to let my dog poop in your yard or anything like that. I just want to live here and raise my kid, and y'all do you and I'll do me. Are we cool? And after that, it was, and even the heaviness around my property even went away.
I believe it.
So,
and we believe that that's why after 8 years, none of us have ever brought anything home with us. Because when we talk to things, we're very respectful towards them. We thank them for their time. We make sure that we're not encroaching on their space. We're not being disrespectful to them at all. And I think that goes a long way. Just like you said, you go down there and you say, like, I'm not going to let my dog crap on your grave. I'm not going to disrespect you. Let's be good neighbors here, essentially. And they left you alone. And I think I think, honest to God, I think that's why nothing is, knock on wood, nothing is followed us home at any point.
Yeah, and then I got into a habit where I enjoyed going down there and just sitting and talking.
Yeah,
it was
kind of becomes peaceful, right?
Yeah, it was like therapeutic for me. I mean, as crazy as that might sound, if somebody had been walking by and like, is that John over there? Somebody called the hospital. I think he's
at it
crazy.
again.
He's talking. Yeah, he's talking to dead people.
Gravedigger John's at it again.
But it did become like almost like they became friends almost to me in a sense, where I could just go down there and just tell them about my day.
There's a lot of people that work at these places that they open up to the public and to us, and I mean even like places that don't necessarily want to be known for it, but like employees that work at some of these places, they'll go in and they'll say hi, they'll have a friendly they'll have a nickname or a name of some sort for them, and they'll have a conversation with them on a regular basis. They could be closing up, or they could be getting there in the morning and greeting them, and it's kind of commonplace when you're open to it.
Mm-hmm.
I watched an interview one time, and this was so dope to me, and that's what it was. It was like a caretaker, and he was talking about it, and he was like, yeah, man, this is like one of the most haunted graveyards here, and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And he points over there. He goes, yeah, this bench over there. He's like, certain times of the night, or maybe not every night, but every so often. And he called her by name. He's like, she'll sit on that bench and just sit out and just watch over the graveyard. And he's like, I'll just have conversations with her, and then she'll just disappear. And the way he said it, like it was just no big deal anymore. It's like it's obvious he's just dealt with it for so long. He's become like, it's just whatever.
To him, it really is normal.
Yeah, and he's saying, I'm sitting there like, dude, I would poop all over myself. There is no way I could just be like, oh, that's just Miss Moore over there, Yeah, she died in 1898, but who's counting? She just sits out here every so often, just say hi.
Just hanging out.
No, dog, that's not going to be the way it's going to be with me. Now, yeah, if I'm dealing with it after 30 years, and yeah, probably I'd be like, just kind of fist bumper as I'm walking by and be like, you good? I'm good. Yep. Okay. See you around.
Just thank God that we live in this generation and an era, and otherwise we'd be in those insane asylums and probably have lobotomies and locked up.
Or we could be. Or be in Salem, New York, and get burned on a post for. He's a warlock. Destroy him. He talks to the dead. He's reading the Necronomicon.
We've been called way worse.
That's the truth.
But I do. I think too many young people today, and even people my age, get a little bit too loose with this stuff and don't take cautionary advice to heart and just play with this stuff because they think it's cool and, oh, this will get me thousands of views on the internet. And then all of a sudden you see them on a live stream and their house is exploding in the background and their face is being tore off by some kind of demonic force or something. Or
got them the views.
It's like, look, guys, don't play with this stuff, man. You know,
Yep.
Call Derek and Dan. They'll come and hook you up and
Well, at least try
sure,
it.
I mean, if you want to really experience it, find your local paranormal investigators and ask if you can go with them on an investigation.
Most of the time, they would be thrilled to have you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know we are.
that.
People reach out
it's
to us
fun.
and say, "I want to experience the real thing." Like yeah, you know, here's some places, here's some dates. Meet us there.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, it's much safer. Just saying.
It is. It is.
I need that old thing from NBC that says "the more you know" with the star going across.
Brought to you by.
Yeah, craft singles. So this Mars train station, what's the skinny on this place? Because I looked up some history of it, but I hadn't really never heard about it.
There's really not a lot. I mean, they have a plaque on the outside, which I love, that says, "On this day in history, absolutely nothing happened." And it's just, it's not a, there's no like tragedies that occurred there. You know, there's no war that occurred there. You know, nothing like that. But it's just, it was a major hub back in the day. It wasn't far from Pittsburgh, and it was, a lot of people would go through that town just as commuters. Even before that, you know, the Native Americans, that was a heavily trafficked area. So there's a lot of those kinds of things where it's just the town itself, we feel, has so many stories to tell. And the real reason that we got pulled into the train station is because we had done some investigations right around the corner there with a tattoo shop and a barber shop, and we got some pretty incredible things that had happened. The only real thing that there was really any documentation on as far as the past was that of a cat, actually. The neighborhood knew of this cat that would follow this employee to work every day, make its second home there, and it would go back home with them. And everybody knew of this cat. So much so they nicknamed it Chessie, as in the locomotive line. So one day it just stopped showing up. Nobody really knew why. And it actually made some of the local papers, you know, local cat goes missing kind of thing. They found out when they were doing restoration, and they actually dug down to the foundation of the original building in order to pick it up and move it to its current spot. That there was a mummified cat that was in there. They found it. The going theory is that it fell between some loose floorboards, and it just slowly died there. And you know, it was naturally preserved. The cat's still there. Physically speaking, they have it on a wall, and that cat has been kind of the culprit of a lot of the town hauntings. People hear, and we actually personally heard the cat at our other investigations, and it's just one of those kind of in passing things, like, oh, you know, I heard a meow, or it must be Chessie. But that was really the only like paranormal tale of that location. But we got a lot more than we had bargained for, in a good sense, at that place. But the building itself is beautifully restored and kept up really well. you can see the passion and the care that the historical society shows for it. They have a lot of artifacts, a lot of things that were donated from them, and it's a small building. If you go to the pictures of the station, I just tossed up a bunch of things just to give you an idea of what it is. But it's a smaller building, 3-4 rooms, and they actually don't. They don't actually have enough room in the train station for all the artifacts. They have an entire different room.
Which one you want me to click on here?
Just if you go back to the last folder, there's just pictures of the building in general, just to kind of just to kind of see what it is. And there are pictures of Jesse in there. I mean, it's
wow.
still there.
Yeah, so
yes, the cat ain't looking too hot, but still, for he stayed intact really well.
Yeah, it looks like half of Hollywood right now.
yeah.
No, but he
too soon.
Well, no, that wasn't even a shot at the fires. I was talking about like the very thin people. That was really bad timing. So yes, that was very soon.
Oh, my bad.
In that way, yeah.
No, that was my bad. So yeah, to your point, John. I mean, this location is very unassuming. There is not much about it online. The way that we found out about it, like Derek said, the place that I go for my tattoos is down the street in the town of Mars. I've driven by this place as Derek has for years because we grew up by it and never really thought much of it because it's a very unassuming building.
You barely even know that it's there unless you're looking for it.
Yeah, I mean they have like a little caboose sitting out front on a little, a small chunk of rail line. But other than that, they really don't advertise much for it. But when we were investigating a tattoo shop a few years ago, I was, the owner had told this woman from the historical society that, I was a ghost hunter with Derek, and that I was going to be coming in for an appointment. So she wanted to meet me because, these historical societies are looking for reasons to, advertise what they are so that people will come there.
Just to get people talking about them. Honestly, that's all it really takes.
Exactly. When you start throwing ghosts around, there's a pretty good tourism.
Sometimes that's for better and worse, especially if you got an aggressive spirit. It's like, hey, come down and see our demon spirit right here at the old train station.
Yeah, but in this day and age,
with Beelzebub, it's like
there are people that would come. Don't deny that.
When I was getting my tattoo done, the woman came over. She was one of the members of the historical society. It was a believer, was not, hardcore into spiritualism or paranormal investigations or anything else. She just was, she's just a believer. She wanted to see if we would be interested. We were the first people and the only people that have ever investigated here. So we've done it twice, Derek, I believe. I think it's been 2 or 3 times we've investigated here.
It was 2 times, yeah.
Okay. And it's becoming like a project for us, as we'll get into.
See, this is what I find so neat, man, this lantern collection. I love this old lanterns, old Americana type stuff, old tools. And
the cool thing about a lot of this is that it's all local. It was all either preserved at the old railroad station, or it was given to them by someone that was in town or in the area. So all of the things that they have on display there are local.
Well, I mean, Pittsburgh, if you know anything about that city, yeah, it's changed over time now, but it was like heavy industrial city, correct? It was
absolutely
steel mills, railroad, textile plants, what else? Probably furniture making, just anything and everything.
Yeah, I mean,
anything that was.
primarily steel making. I mean, that's where our name comes from, the Iron City Paranormal, right? I mean, it was called the Iron,
Yep.
and they call it Steel City as well. It'd be when it developed into steel and not iron making, it shifted a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the city is known for grit, for gray skies, not only from the clouds, but also the smoke from the mills that filled the air and the pollution and everything else. And it's getting much cleaner now. It's actually a very beautiful city. But the people here are very hardworking, very very like salt of the earth kind of people for the most part. Now we're getting quite heavy in the tech side, which is a big difference than the past for Pittsburgh. But yeah, I mean, anywhere you go, not only in downtown Pittsburgh, but in these towns outside of the city, like where Derek and I grew up, in like the not Cranberry area, but like slightly outside of Cranberry, north of the city. Mars is about 20 miles outside of the city. So the surrounding neighborhoods as well, same thing, right? Just hardworking people, a lot of immigrants in this area. Very rich in history around here. For as young as the country is, it's one of the more history-rich cities, I would say.
And if you ever want to go to Pittsburgh and impress the locals around there, tell them you know what a Yinzer is.
Yeah.
I know, because I love the Steelers, even though they broke my heart last Saturday. But we're not going to talk about that. And growing up, it was funny. Little side story that's kind of off topic. When I was growing up and the Steelers were riding high with Chuck Noll and all that, and I always wondered, I was like, why are they called the Steelers? And I used to ask my grandfather, I was like, are they people that steal? Like they steal things, like, so, I mean, the name burglar didn't sound great. And they just called them Steelers. And then I later learned, my grandfather had to smarten his idiot grandson up as Pittsburgh is that's the hub of pretty much all steel manufacturing. Hence why the team is called the Steelers, and this is their mascot, Steely McBeam. So now do you get it? And I'm like, oh, okay, got it, cool. So they're not stealing things; they're just Steelers. But
let's
story time
rewind a
with
little
Dr.
bit.
John on his idiocy to what a Steeler was. But back to the regular scheduled program here. So this is the outside of the Historical Society office.
Yeah, this is the train station itself. Yeah, so it's where they have their meetings in the buildings. They have little outbuildings behind here where they meet monthly and have all their historical society discussions and potlucks and all that fun stuff.
This place just looks beautiful, man. I ain't gonna lie, dude.
It's a nice little campus. It really is. There's a bunch of buildings on it, that pavilions. I mean, they have a lot of space there, surprisingly, and it's gorgeous what they've done with the place.
Let me see if I can get a little closer here. So this is inside that office or that train station?
So I don't know if we want to jump into this right now, but this is one of those areas that we didn't even know existed. We were drawn to it, and there's it really, this place, it's not big. You can see the size of that chair in there. Like, two of us were hard pressed to sit in this room, but it was just a side storage room at the moment. We ended up calling it the medical room just because of all the medical supplies and stuff that were in there. We later found out that it was a lot of old chiropractor just stuff. And that's box in the back. What would you think that is for? I had no idea at first.
That glass case in the back?
Yes, that case.
No
wrong
maybe,
answers.
Maybe doctor's equipment, medications. I don't know. Doctor's offices always back then used to like to keep an actual skeleton in there to kind of point out to people what was going on inside their body. Oh, so I nailed it.
You did.
So when this if you go back to that photo from the outside, when you said it was a pretty building, that right there. So this, this door on the left hand side and the window that's behind the sleigh that's sitting there, this was originally the ticket office for the train station. So this location of this train station is not the original location. This train station itself had been moved about a half a mile down the road. It was at risk of being demolished years and years ago. And the Historical Society actually bought this location for $1 and paid a company to pick this building up and move it half a mile down the tracks to its current location to preserve
Which is just incredible to me with the age of it and everything.
Yeah, when they picked it up, that's when they found Chessie underneath the structure of the building. Was actually when they located the mummy of Chessie. But so this is the ticket counter, so to speak, for the train station. This room, if you go back to the inside photo, this is the opposite side of that wall. So behind that, or right beside that case, is that doorway, and then off to the left, that's off photo because of the wall, is that window. So very small little room. Like Derek said, not a lot of room. Before we had turned the lights on and taken a picture, this was completely black in here. Like we had no lights on in here at all.
There was even a sign that said like employees only. And I mean the woman that had let us that was there with us that night and kind of gave us access to everything was like, yeah, go on in. You know, we have no problem with that. It's just, you know, she pushed the sign aside and said, come on in.
This right here, I don't know if y'all can see my cursor. I don't think I got it where y'all could see it, but this little statue up here of the nurse, is that one of those old Red Cross nurse figurines from way back in like the 30s, 40s?
It looks like it.
I think it is, yes.
Because that also had me thinking of a question here. And I know you said there weren't like tragedy or anything like that at this place. My grandfather served in World War II, and he was part of the 28th Infantry Division, which is Pennsylvania National Guard. He got attached to him when he got to Germany. He was 2nd Infantry Division, active Army. But was this train station a receiving station not only for soldiers going off to war, coming back from war, but also a receiving station for the bodies of those killed in not just World War I or II or whatever, but any war? As long as this place was functioning, was this a receiving station at that point in time for the Army?
I don't believe so. I mean, I guess there's always a possibility, but there's no documentation of it. I know that they did ship out a lot of locals to war, to wherever they were going from this station, but it didn't ever seem to come up or be documented that it was receiving of bodies coming back, anything like that. Like I said, it's entirely possible. You know how easily it was to lose documentation of things, which is why we want to do as much of it as we possibly can now, so that doesn't happen again.
It just made me curious as, okay, well, maybe that explains some of the quote-unquote paranormal events that are going around there, that if you got an old soldier that may have shipped out and he didn't make it back home, maybe his spirit is somehow just attached to that place like a magnet to metal, right? Or the spirit of I don't know, an unclaimed body from a soldier that was returned home, or just, I don't know. It's just different things I'm pondering in my brain, because there was a lot of that back then, especially during World War I and World War II, where families.
There's absolutely that possibility, but do keep that thought in your mind about bodies not being claimed, because we do believe that, not war, you know, not anything like that, but we do believe that there is a tie to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
in this room.
Yeah, we've investigated other train stations as well, and the way that it was not here, but in other train, another train station that we had investigated, the way that it was told to us that actually made a lot of sense was, if you think about a train station and really any hub where there's mass mass transit, right? There's people of all shapes, sizes, ethnicities, backgrounds coming in and out of the building, going to different destinations, having different functions in life, interacting with each other, some of them just passing each other. There's just a lot of energy, a lot of movement in those, which is very on par with why hotels and theaters are as active as they are for historical locations with the paranormal. Doesn't necessarily mean they had something tragic necessarily happen at the location, but just that amount of energy that's moving back and forth day in and day out. That's theoretically within what we do in our community. That there isn't a belief that that's why these locations are as active as they are. Again, not because there was necessarily somebody that died there, but just because of how many people really, even just left an imprint on it, that can come around later in life and create not a portal necessarily, but just create like an area of activity. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible, like Derek said, that it was used as such for like returning of soldiers. I would imagine locally, maybe not like mass, like mass drop offs of soldiers or anything, but you'd figure there'd have to be at least some local, some bodies of local soldiers that would have come in here during times of war or whatever. It's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, because when my grandfather came back, I want to say, like I said, he was attached to 28th Infantry Division, so he came back to Pennsylvania and then caught a train back to North Carolina, or not North Carolina. I think he went from there out to, so he probably flew, I'm sure, but he went back out to Texas with the second ID. But still, he still had to use the railway system in Pennsylvania at that time. So I just had me wondering if maybe that was a receiving station for the Army for bodies that were being shipped back. But it just reminded me of the stories I read about the Buffalo Station up in Buffalo, New York, that's really haunted. Supposedly there's a spirit there of a woman who is still waiting for the love of her life to return, and she's not found rest. And just that right there, dude, that is so sad. It's just so sad that this spirit is just stuck to this place because of her love for the person that she's waiting for, and she's not able to find peace and pass on. And, it's just those things.
Yeah.
You hear about those all the time, and who's to say what really, draws anybody back? And is it the place, is it the ground, is it the action that took place there? But we've definitely experienced things that are not necessarily, like Dan said, bad, tragic. It's it could be the positive energy and emotion as well. So it could be something along the lines of somebody coming back from the war and looking forward to getting married, having a kid, seeing their child for the first time, something along those lines. You just don't know. There's way too many you just unknown facts that just weren't documented back then. But any of those things could really fall under those categories.
So when we first got to this location, we the first time we investigated here was just Derek and myself. We did not have a third person with us, and we were getting some things. So we started in the room that was right outside of that room with all the medical things in it. That's like kind of like the welcome area, so to speak, of the museum. And then there's a little intermediate room where there's some like old telegraphs and things that are set up as as this demonstration. The kids can play with the telegraphs and go on each side of the room and listen to each other and all that kind of stuff. And then the back room is that room that has a little trolley car in it, the little maintenance trolley car, and the remains of Chessie the cat. They're in the very last room. So throughout the night, we were, investigating the three rooms, and you have a direct line of sight. So if you're sitting to the right in this photo, if you're sitting to the right side of that trolley car, you're actually able to see down the entire length of the building. All of the doorways to each section of the museum are all lined up on the right side of the building. So we started in the second room, we started in this back room there, didn't we?
I mean,
I don't remember where we started exactly.
So we started minimally in the middle room, like you're saying, like the receiving room or whatever. We didn't really get much going on there. We did get pulled into this room. We ended up calling it Chessie's room, but yeah, it's also the biggest room. It has a diorama of the entire town, which is incredible. But yeah, this is the room that kind of really spurred things and pushed things forward with some of the more notable experiences.
Yeah, so when we were in this room here, we had our spirit, or no, it was our Phasma box. So our Phasma box, for those that aren't aware, is a computer software program it mimics the spirit box, which is the thing that you typically hear on ghost hunting shows that cycle through radio stations. You hear all the white noise of the radio stations clicking. The Phasma box is a software program that does that. It cycles radio signals, but it cuts out all the background noise of the white noise. And the things that come through it are typically much easier to hear for us, right? In the moment, which is critical if we're going to have a conversation. We want to know what they're saying rather than, listen to it during evidence review. We can hear it, these spirit, like some responses, 3 days later, but that doesn't do us any good. So the Phasma box is actually very good at, saying things and having the things come through much clearer.
And actually being able to open up that communication and conversation, like Dan's saying, to be able to kind of continue finding things out in a more of an intelligent manner, using that in real time.
Yeah, so we started to, this is where we started to get some actual, what we would consider intelligent communication. And it didn't make sense to us at the time. Again, it was very early in the night. Something was saying the word Schmidt, which I think it said it twice.
Yeah, and it didn't make any sense. It didn't fit into any conversation we were having. It kind of just spit it out. So we just kind of kept it in the back of our minds.
Yeah. So
exactly how prevalent? I'm sorry to cut you off. I apologize. How prevalent is that Schmidt last name up in your all's area, though?
Not at all.
I know.
Not at all. And so not at all in the area. But as we go through this, it kind of puts the pieces together. And this is why this location specifically was so fascinating to us from an investigation standpoint, because this was the first piece of the puzzle for this location, as we find out. Didn't know it at the time, but then after our last interaction at this location, that's when everything starts to make sense, right? So in this room, the word Schmidt, right? That's puzzle piece number one. At the time, meant absolutely nothing. We thought it was just the computer being weird or just a random word coming through. Who knew, right?
But on a different note, though, using that same tool, we did get some other intelligent communication to the point of them asking us to turn the railroad on, the miniature railroad there.
Yep.
And then it was extremely loud, and we were then told shush, as in like stop this, and then we were told train stop, whether that meant stop the train from moving and making so much noise, or that this was a train stop. Either way, to us, was intelligent, at least enough to kind of continue that conversation.
Yep. So while we're having this communication, I'm sitting essentially where that wooden chair is. Derek's in another part of the room. We're spread out a good bit in this area, and I kept seeing these shadow figures move at the very other side of the building, which is right outside of that room that we had looked at first with all the medical equipment. It looked like there was a figure that, out of the corner of our eyes, or mine at least, walked from, essentially where we're standing when we took this photo into this room. or
And
around.
again, we had no reason to believe there was anything tied to that room at that point.
Exactly. So then we did our thing in that room with the diorama and stuff, and then as we usually do, we had to use the bathroom. So the restroom at this site is actually outside. You have to go outside, and then there's a shed that was converted into a restroom for the public. So Derek and I went out there, and at the time, during our first investigation, the caboose that I had talked about earlier, the caboose out front was not open to us. There was a lock on it, and
She just didn't have the key. There was no real other reason than that.
yeah, the member of the historical society that was there with us did not have a key to it at that time. So it was off limits to us, but it gave me a very odd vibe to it. So I didn't really want to go over there, to be perfectly honest with you, the first time we were here. But the restroom, if you even look on the left side of the photo, there's that shed in the very back. That right there is the bathroom. So Derek and I were coming out of that bathroom at one point, and the caboose is located to the left off frame, right? And when we came out of the bathroom, there were string lights that were up around the outside of the caboose. And the lights were off the whole time we were there. But as I was coming out of the bathroom, the lights on that caboose flashed. They came on, and then they'd, be on for a second or two, and then they'd turn off, and then they'd come back on, and then they'd shut off. So it wasn't like a quick flash, but it was very broken, and they'd come on for a couple seconds, go off for 10 or 15 seconds, come on for a couple seconds, go off. And it was enough that it caught my attention.
I just uploaded a picture to the drive, John, if you do want to pull the caboose picture up.
Hey. Oh, maybe I got to go back the other way.
You may have to refresh.
Yeah, you might have to refresh the whole thing.
Oh, there you go.
It'll just be it'll just be the weird numbers.
The IMG 662 on there. Yeah, so there's the caboose. So like I say, there's these string lights around there. So it just caught my attention enough that when we went back in, I asked the woman, Chris, from the Historical Society, I asked her, like, what's going on with those lights out there? They've been off the entire time we've been here for some reason. Like I said, I asked her, I'm like, you guys have a switch in here for that or something? Because while I was out there waiting for Derek to finish up in the restroom, the lights came on and then went off and then came on again and then went off again, And she said, oh, that's weird. She goes, we don't have access to that. She goes, everything's controlled from inside that caboose. She goes, I don't know why they'd be flashing. They're not set up to flash like that. She said they should be turned off all night. There's no reason for them to be on, and we kind of just, again, we filed that in the who knows category.
The weird things to remember.
Yeah, we saved it for that rainy day, right? I mean, we put that in the same file that we put the word Schmidt. And the third thing that happened to us when we went back in after we were having this conversation with Chris about the lights, I was walking out of the room and I felt
that warm rush, right?
Warm rush. Yes, exactly. So I apologize. I have to go back. I'm actually thinking Aaron was with us the first time we investigated here, so it was not just Derek.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't going to question you, but I
apologize for that. That's my
fault. Was there too.
That's my fault. I'm sorry. So we were walking out of that room, and I got that sudden like flush of warm air across my face. Now, mind you, there is no heater in this building at all. There's no furnace. There's no running water in this building. There's no heat source at all. And it was late fall that we were there. I think it was like early fall, really, like September to October timeframe. And there was really no reason for there to be warm rush of air across my face. And it dissipated quickly, and I continued to walk through the room towards that room where the medical supplies are. and like almost through the doorway out of the room that I was in, and I felt that warm air again.
Just like that.
So
It was
right
just a
in,
pull.
was it right in here where I'm pointing?
No, so
Where you,
actually to the
Opposite.
right off frame here. So this is the room.
out this way.
Yeah, this is
So-
the front room, and then there's a room off of this room, a bigger room that's like the entryway, and then there's another room on that other side, which is where we were. So we were actually 2 rooms away from here. But I had this warmth come across my face as I walked through the doorway into the room adjacent to this. And we kind of started to feel that something was drawing our attention towards this room. And we had not seen this room with lights on at this point. It was still dark in there. I kind of just, put 2 and 2 together. I felt very drawn to this room. Aaron felt very drawn to this room. And we kind of just, took a shot in the dark, and we're like, let's go sit in that room and see what happens, But as I walked into this room specifically, right about where that box is, it says green beans on the left-hand side there.
Yeah.
Right when I got to about there, because I was going to go in and just sit down on that stool in the middle and just feel out the
See
room.
if I can. So we're talking about right in here.
Yeah, so I was gonna sit right there. Like that's where I set my course for that chair because I am fat and I don't like to stand. So I just wanted to sit there for a while, And like I said, we had all of the lights off. We didn't know that this case was back there. You couldn't see anything; it was pitch black. So I just went and I sat in that chair. But as I got to that green beans box ish, I felt once again that rush of warm air across my face, almost like it was guiding me into this room.
And that's one of those things that we try to do as a team is just verbalize everything.
Yeah.
So something like that, if he would have felt it there and before, and I would be the one standing there trying to figure out if there's some kind of heat, HVAC something coming on, and if not, as was the case here, you kind of pursue it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just went in and I sat in that chair. I mean, that was all I did. I didn't use any equipment. I wasn't, trying to talk to anything. I just wanted to go sit.
You felt super uncomfortable though, if I recall.
I did. I felt extremely uncomfortable, and I felt like this looming presence behind me in the corner behind me to my left. So my back, as it turns out, was to this case, and that
no idea at the time.
Correct. I had no idea that case was there, but I just felt like there was this looming presence over my back left shoulder, and it made me uncomfortable to the point where I felt like I had to leave. So I left the room, and Erin went into the room.
She just noped out of there, I believe.
Yeah, she got out of there pretty quickly, but she was using a flashlight when she went in, and she was the one that said, or that noticed this case, and she had looked at it for a little bit while she was in there, and she noticed that there was a hook in the center of the box at the top. So it's glass on 3 sides, wooden on the back, and then on the top piece, there's a wooden piece across the top. But in the center, right about where your mouse is, right in the center there's one singular hook. And Erin was the one that knew what it was when she looked at it. And she came out of the room and she goes, "Guys, do you know what that case is in there?" And we're like, "No."
Nope.
I'm like, "Which case are you talking about?" Because I didn't even know there was a case, right? So I said, "Which case are you talking about?" She goes, "Come here." So she turned the lights on and we walked in, and she's showing us that case. And she said, "This is a case that they used to display a skeleton in." It's like you said, John, it's a display case for a medical display, right? Where example or whatever the heck you want to call it.
And if you don't mind me adding on to that so people can follow along. So back in those days, in the old days, some people would actually give their bodies to science, right? So a lot of these, they would They would basically strip them down to their skeleton and then bleach the bones, and then they would sell them to doctors' offices, universities, colleges. And here's the thing:
Anybody.
this was a living. And there's also a serial killer story. Was it H. Holmes?
H. Holmes, yep.
That's how he would sell the people that he would kill. He would sell their skeletons to local universities around Chicago. But that was a real person. It wasn't a plastic skeleton like we have today. You know, it was an actual living, breathing person, which would make you say that that person's spirit is probably still attached to that skeleton.
Yeah. So, and to take that one step further, John, I mean, yes, there were people that donated their bodies to science, or still are, you know, but to take it a step further, there were also people that did not donate their bodies to science, but there were a lot of grave robbers.
Grave robbers, yep.
Yeah, true.
These people would go in and take bones or take the skeletons out of grave sites, and you know, it got so bad in the 20s and 30s, and even a little bit before that, that they actually families would plant landmines when they buried their family members in their caskets. They would actually put landmines a couple feet above the casket in the ground, so that if somebody tried to dig them up, they would blow them up. You know, it was a real problem. So that you're absolutely right. I mean, so it's kind of like, you know, doing it against your will. So like if you're donating your body to science, you're okay with it.
That's one thing.
Yeah. So we go out, and we after we were like, the three of us were kind of powwowing about this a little bit, and we're like, you know, super creeped out by the fact that this is a display case for a skeleton. And Chris heard us, this historical society lady, and she said, yeah. She goes, are you guys talking about that case in there? And we said, yeah. She goes, you know, that was a case from the original one of the original doctor's offices in the town. Was a chiropractor, and she said his name was Dr. Schmidt, was who the case belonged to, right? So,
I still get chills just hearing that. Like,
yeah. And when we heard that, all three of us had that, like, you know, shell shock look on our face, and we're like, you got to be joking, you know?
yeah.
And
What name did you just say?
well, like, we told her that we had heard the name Schmidt in the back room of one of our devices, and we, you know, made it our mission to find something out about this room. And this led to what was and is still the most incredible conversation we've had with a spirit through an Estes method. And Derek was the one that was, we call it being under, right? So with the Estes method, you put noise canceling headphones on, and you sit there and you listen to the spirit box through your noise canceling headphones, with the white noise drowning out anything that is being said in the room around you.
As well as eye blinders, so you're completely in sense deprivation.
Correct. Yeah, so Derek's listening to the spirit box, listening to all the white noise, and completely deprived of his sight and his ability to hear. And
I had no idea how long I was under for.
Yeah. So Aaron and I asked questions, and then Derek, his job is only to say what he hears coming through the spirit box. That is his sole function. So Derek, I don't need to take all the talking time.
No, by all means. I was listening to white noise that entire time. So, you know, Dan and Aaron, Dan was standing in this doorway, basically where this picture was taken. I was on that stool listening, and Aaron was kind of behind Dan because she really wanted nothing to do with the whole thing. She didn't want to go in that room at all. But the whole thing started, actually, we had a cat ball right outside this room, and it went off, it lit up and started moving. And as we kind of proceeded, at first there was nothing. I don't know if it was like a feeling out process or what, but it was static, just pure unadulterated static. To the point where my ears just started ringing, you know. It was a lot. It was a lot to take in, but as we started asking more and more questions, it seemed like they started to open up. We explained why we were there, who we were, kind of what we were hoping to get out of it. And I don't know if it was maybe that nobody else did this before. No one else actually like ever came in with tools and the intention to speak with someone, but there was definitely seemed to be that sense of anxiety combined with curiosity, that just they weren't sure about us. They weren't sure why we were here. But when they heard, our reasons, and we told them a little bit about ourselves, all of a sudden it's like there was a switch that flipped. And it was constant. We were greeted, we got highs, our names were repeated. And the way that we record our Estes isn't just from a room perspective where you would hear Dan and Aaron's voice ask a question and then my voice repeating it. We actually have we actually record the spirit box as well. So after the fact, we can kind of pair everything up and you can hear the whole conversation progress. And to me, a lot of these things didn't really mean anything as I was under. I would say these things. I was so drained. How long was it, Dan? 35, 40 minutes, something like that? Maybe even longer.
Yeah.
But I had no idea how long I was under for. And typically, the longest that you go is maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And this was, I would say, double that. But we got so much out of it. But I've never been so drained in my life after that. I mean, I had to sit down. I was shaken. But I mean, Dan, you can kind of tell them the questions that you were asking, because obviously I don't recall right off the top of my head which those were. But I do know, John, that we had attached a few recordings and put them in that drive from the way that we combined that Estes method.
Yeah, let's go back here. Recordings.
Yeah, John, were you going to say something? I'm sorry, we've been droning on.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, the only question I had, going back to what you all were just talking about, do you all think that maybe this was the chiropractor himself who's attached to his medical equipment, or do you think this was the cadaver that was in that case?
So that's a good question. In these recordings that Derek has on here, we have
these are just the most profound ones. There was a ton.
We've put together that it was actually the spirit of the body that was used to display the skeleton was actually the person that was interacting with us, and also was just the strongest presence in that room was the spirit attached to the skeleton itself.
So give me just 1 second. I got to grab an earbud, because on StreamYard, when I play the clips, I can't hear it. You all can hear it, but I can't. So I got to grab an earbud, because I'm watching the stream on my phone as well to make sure it's still working right. So give me 1 second.
Yep. Probably shouldn't just sit here in silence, because that would be really boring for everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty much what I do a lot of the times.
It is what you do quite often.
Okay, I'm back.
Good.
We're running out of things to talk about.
So which one you want me to start with?
Well, is it best to tell the story first and then listen to some of these things? Like, do you want to hear the whole thing first, or do you want to hear the pieces? Do you want to actually listen to some of these and see what you can make out? I mean, you tell us how you want to roll with it. We're happy to do whatever.
Hey, let's tell the story, and then we'll go to them as we go.
Okay, so when we were starting on the Estes method, typically I lead questioning. As you guys can tell, I like to talk,
Thankfully, because I don't.
So usually I lead the questioning, and that's the way we started in this room. So Derek was sitting over in the chair that I was sitting in previously. The lights were out. Aaron was located by the green beans box, and I was essentially standing in the doorway of the room. All of that, between the three of us, there was maybe 6 feet from me to Derek, and Aaron sandwiched in the middle. So it wasn't super spread out by any means. But when I first started questioning, the energy made itself very. He made it very apparent that he wanted to talk to me. He was saying that he very quickly told us his name. He told us his name was Dave, and it was followed up very shortly after that by the word body. And when I say the word, this is when Derek, we asked the questions, and Derek's just saying what's coming through the spirit box. After I asked for a name, Derek said Dave, and then I asked, Dave, thanks for talking with me, and Erin kind of stepped in at that point, and she started asking questions, and she said, Dave, thank you for talking to us. Can you tell us, did you have a family? And he said yes to Erin, right? And then Erin continued to speak with him, and I started to ask, how many kids did you have? And then Derek said no. And Erin's like, are you saying that you didn't have any kids? And she said, then Derek says, no, him. And
I believe not you maybe came up there as well.
Not you, him. And then Erin said, I think he wants to just talk to you, Dan. I said, Dave, I really appreciate that. Is it, is that the case? Do you want to just talk to me? So then I just continued to speak with him. And, he came in through the conversation, through Derek. He told us in broken words, and these are the recordings that are on here. He said, I have come here many pieces. And these were not all in one. They weren't all in one sentence.
They were like broken up over a period of time.
Yeah, it was like Derek would say, I have come here many pieces. It was over maybe 30 seconds. Those words came out one by one, and then, I said, we asked, were you potentially the spirit from the person whose body hung in this case? And we said, what happened to you? And then he said, through Derek, he said, I couldn't breathe. I'm just dust. So it was very matter of fact telling us that, when he died, there was something that happened to him that he couldn't breathe. And when he passed, he just realized that he was dust. It was very, and I get chills talking about this still.
He could have been a drowned victim. He could have been in a fire and asphyxiated from carbon monoxide. It's anything.
It could have been anything. And
we never really got any definitive way that he had died. But pursuing all of this, we did find out that he didn't know where his body was. He wanted us to find his body. That's kind of the way that entire conversation progressed down that path and that train of thought. But I know at the end too, he was even thrilled and excited that we were there talking to him. And he what was the phrase, Dan? It was welcome back, or you would be and it's like he wanted us to come back. He wanted us to keep searching and keep looking for his body and finding out where it went. And it was to the point where we actually discussed that with Chris from the Historical Society, and she tried to track him down. It was that intense of a thing that we were really into. We were dedicated to that with as much as we got.
As spooky as it sounds and everything, I'm just sitting here right now, man, and I'm just heavy-hearted because it's sad. This poor guy. It's like he'll never know peace until you all find what became of his body, and he's just going to be trapped in this endless loop of just being in this train station.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do right now. The Historical Society has gotten in contact. Dr. Schmidt is still alive. He is in his 80s or early 90s, I believe. He still lives in the town of Mars. The Historical Society, she has reached out to him to see what happened to his body. Unfortunately, he sold it. He sold the skeleton years ago. He does not recall when he sold it. He was looking to see if she had asked him if he could look back and see if he had any paperwork on it, because you really can't buy and sell those things without some sort of documentation, I believe. So
I would hope.
Yeah, the trails kind of run cold because he does not remember who he sold it to, but he's looking for paperwork, and the Historical Society is assisting with that, trying to find if we can find some way of locating his body, because we told him as much as that, so that's what we're going to do. But that's kind of where we're at right now with it, is we're trying to track down his skeleton, because if we can locate it, we would actually put forth our money to bury it, because we have signed up for that with him.
Yeah, because I would think after, like you were talking about with the grave robbing, and then as I brought up with H.H. Holmes and his murder hotel that he had,
Yep.
with that being out there, you would think there would be some kind of paper trail thing that you would have to register this, because this was indeed a real person. This wasn't just some plastic mold
Absolutely.
Halloween decoration, right? So there's got to be a paper trail somewhere.
Yeah, and who better than a historical society to be on your side for that hunt, right? I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They find records, and they exhaust the search from all options, or from all angles. So we're hopeful that they can come up with something, and we've offered our support for it as well.
So then, what would you do if once you?
Seriously, which is nice. It's kind of enriching that they're as involved as they are.
So what would you do once you all acquire or come back into possession of his skeleton? Would you all take it back to him and then maybe give him a proper burial that he may rest? Or
I don't know if we've really got to the point yet where we have a plan. But we have told him quite plainly that that would be our goal, to give him a proper burial, or however he would want to see fit, and that we just really kind of want to keep in contact with him and tell him what's going on, and what kind of information that we've got, because we did return with a public investigation with some other people, that he actually didn't want to speak to anyone else, just us. So we feel that there's a direct contact here too. Once those people left that during that public investigation, he continued to speak with us, and we shared with him that to the point where we are with our search for his body, and he was thanking us, and it just seemed like he was very appreciative of what we're doing, and it's incredible. It really is.
I'm a softie, man. Y'all got to stop. You're gonna have me crying on here, and it'll be my first public crying on a YouTube video or live stream, because that breaks my heart, dude. I can't imagine the pain of just being trapped, and you're separated from your body, and you can't pass on, because that's the key to you getting out of this. I mean, it's got to be hell. It's got to be literal hell without the fire.
Yeah.
You're just
can't even imagine.
You're just stuck wandering around this building with a dead cat hanging up on the wall all day long. I mean,
there's worse people to be trapped with, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, with as intensive as that initial Estes method was, to actually continuing through, finding more things out in our review processes, and even returning, talking to him once again, it just all kind of tied together and hit home how real this all was, and how devastating it was. I mean, to just not know where your body is, to have that be where everything was left. And we can only do so much, but the Historical Society is certainly on our side here, so we're really hopeful.
Have you gotten a full name for him other than Schmidt?
For the doctor? For the doctor?
No, or for the spirit, I mean, has he given you his full name where you all can maybe cross-reference and see if he's got any actual relatives that are still around that could
It was
possibly...
just Dave. We
Yeah.
never got any last name, anything formal. It was just Dave. And by all means, if you want to pull those up, kind of bottom up, that's kind of where it all started for us with all those SDs.
Yeah, so
Okay,
you'll hear in this, you'll hear us asking the questions, and then you'll also hear Derek saying the words, but you'll hear as well what Derek's hearing through the headphones.
be on a bit of a delay here, so
We want to give you the opportunity to come forward and talk to us in a completely open and honest way. We're here to be part of the solution.
Dave. Body.
dude, that was clear as day. Dave, just right there.
Yeah, so you can hear when Derek calls it out, that's him telling us, what he's hearing. And then we have to play off of that and then continue the conversation. So this is where you'll start to hear how this one sentence is broken up the way that it is in the spirit box.
All right, that's okay. Quiet on the set, everybody.
Put on display against the will acceptance. Okay.
Have come here, I think. Many. Pieces.
So you hear how long of a delay it was between the words, right? And based on what we know or what we believe interactions like this to be from a spirit interacting with us through a device like a spirit box, that stuff takes a lot of energy, right? I mean, it takes a lot of energy to manipulate radio waves to what the frequencies or like what the radio is picking up and spelling out or it's like saying and letting come through. So you got to figure these spirits, it's very taxing for them theoretically.
Well, that also explains why you both felt drained, because it seems like to me Dave was pulling from your all's own energy to do this.
Yeah.
And you can almost see it's like it just built up during each of those breaks. It built up, and then all of a sudden there was a word, and then there was another pause because it had to build up again. So yeah, I mean, and all of that makes sense to us. And
I'm sorry if I'm starting. I feel like I'm about wanting to just bust out cry. This was a young guy.
Yeah.
You could tell by his voice. This was a young dude. This wasn't no old man. This sounded like a young, healthy fella.
And then on top of it, you put together that he had a family. He didn't want to talk about them. You know, where does that take that then? You know, do they know about him? Did they know that he died? You know, where did that come into play? Because that also ties into all of this too.
Or was he a divorcee and his family left him? You know, it's
I mean, we respected him with that when he said that he didn't want to talk about his family, so we left it at that. But you know, that's also an open-ended one.
Yeah, and we're going to go back to this location. We've been there twice now, and like Derek said, the second time back when everybody else left, Dave came forward and was talking to us again. So we're hoping we can piece this story together a little bit more, you know, over visits there, because he's definitely made a connection with us, and I think that every time we go there, he's willing to tell us a little bit more. So we're hoping to get more out of him.
Which tells me right there that he's obviously a tormented individual, that he doesn't give his trust easily.
Yeah.
And it seems like that you two have become kind of like his intermediaries between the world of the living and the dead, but also friends. Very much so friends.
I think that's what hits even harder, is because it does seem like we have gained his trust through all of these things, and he is comfortable and confident in speaking with us.
Absolutely.
And that's just incredible to have that with somebody like that on the other side.
Man, it just breaks me up because you just hear the inflection in his voice. It just sounds like he was in his 20s.
Mm-hmm.
He had to have been like 20, 25, 26. I mean, I know I got kind of a nasally voice at times, but, you know, like my dad or somebody like that, when you get older, you know, your voice gets deeper, more gravelly kind of. His is just like, I don't know, maybe early adult, 18, 19, 20,
Sure.
right on to about mid-20s.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder what in the heck happened to this guy.
There's so many questions.
Yeah. So this next one actually is when we start to ask, you know, what happened to him. And this is all he'll give us is just that he couldn't breathe. That's all he's told us so far.
All I hope and pray is that he didn't off himself. That's the only thing I'm hoping.
That's the truth.
All right.
Couldn't. Breathe. No.
Are you talking about how you died?
Realized I'm just
Oh man.
Yeah.
You imagine what that's like to realize I'm just dust.
Isn't that something?
yeah.
Yeah, that one was after I know that Derek said that he was drained after that, and I fully, I appreciated the effort that Derek put into that as long as he had, because we didn't want to cut that off, right? Because of how like it was almost borderline poetic, right? The way that it was going through, and um, I appreciated his effort as well as the spirit's effort, and I came out of it very drained, but also very energized at the same time, because I likened it to, I told Derek and Aaron at the time, I said that was like a religious experience with me, right? I mean, I felt like I was so connected to this guy and just understood him, the way that I've never experienced in an investigation. So it was absolutely incredible for me.
This is why I know there's an afterlife, and I've never not believed it. There is.
Yeah.
It's just sad, so sad that some people don't get to be at peace. They just get stuck
Yeah. It's a
for
shame.
whatever reason. Who knows? I mean, I barely know the workings of this plane of existence, much less that one.
Yeah, no
But
doubt.
I'm also curious, why was he so against Aaron? Most times, spirits seems like to me they would want to communicate more with a female, because typically females come more across motherly, nurturing,
Sure.
caring, more empathetic.
We don't necessarily have an answer for that, but you had mentioned something like, about being divorced, or, maybe somebody, he never had any close relationships with females, something along those lines. It could be a generalization like that. She could look like someone that he do. There's
And it
again
just
so many things that we just don't know still.
Oh,
With more questions than answers with something like this.
yeah. So my initial thought on that, John, is the way that and I'm not knocking Aaron by any means, but when I think back to when we were in the moment and when we were there, my initial, like I said, when I was in that room the first time, I was very bothered by this energy or this presence that was behind me or around me, which was Dave, I do believe. But my reaction to it was to continue to sit there, and I was uncomfortable the entire time, but I didn't run away from it. Now when Erin went in that room, she felt that energy the same as I
She
did,
had no
but she
interest.
turned around and ran away from it. That I believe that's why he kind of felt more,
That makes sense.
more
so
connected with me, because I wasn't afraid of what was happening. I was,
You kind of
I was
pushed through
more,
that.
yeah. I mean, I was more emotionally dedicated to that conversation and to
so
that space than maybe she was.
maybe she just hurt his feelings. I mean,
Yeah, who
because
knows?
to listen to these EVPs, he sounds like a very emotional person. Like he's just
Yeah,
because there's, I mean, I get it's coming over that spirit box or whatever it was y'all called
yeah,
it.
yep.
Slipped my mind, but still,
It was.
um, and maybe that wasn't it's his words, but maybe that's not his true voice, and I could misinterpret the emotion, but I don't think you can, man. I have come here in many pieces. That's sad. Couldn't
Yeah,
breathe. And I realized I'm just dust.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
You,
Right, but I mean, it makes you wonder. like I say, because the emotion and the drama and the passion behind all of those words and just that entire interaction was not unlike anything we've ever experienced.
Well, and on top of all of that, so many of these things came in so just clean and clear. I mean, there wasn't much that you had to do when we're piecing these things together. Sometimes you have to clean up the background. You have to do something with the white noise in the background to make everything sound clear. I barely touched these things. I put the two recordings together, time-stamped them, and that was pretty much it. There wasn't much more you needed to do. So for it to come through this clear, after the fact like this is incredible in its own right as well.
Truth.
Well, it sounds like to me he's really been wanting to be heard.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And being that no one's been in there to talk to him, and maybe that was even another reason that he was so open with us after he learned why we were there.
Man, I wish I lived closer to you all. I'm trying to get back to Ohio to be closer to my dad, but
Really?
I'd love to go to stuff like this, but I don't know, man. You all would have probably found me a ball and mess in that room if you'd have had me and him saying that stuff to me like that. It would have tore me up.
He might have talked to you even more.
Yeah,
I'm just old softy, man, because I hate to know when anybody's in pain or hurting or just suffering. It just eats at me, and especially when he's on the other side and he can't cross. He's just stuck. Like he's just, I don't know, just standing in cement that's just drying and he can't get out of it. I hope and pray to God that you all find that skeleton.
We're going to try everything we can with
yeah.
it. Dude, it's only so far we can take it, but hopefully with the help of the society and everything else, hopefully we're able to put an end to his cement stuckness, so to speak. I like that terminology. We want to get him to somewhere better, for sure. I don't want him standing around that box for the rest of his time.
And I mean, we had told him, we gave him our word that we would do that. So if we do nothing else with all of these experiences, communications, whoever we talk to, if that's the one thing that we do for the rest of these careers, whatever you want to call it, that would be it. That would be the one thing, and I would be perfectly happy with that.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
That's another reason why I wish I had his last name so I could, I don't know, I think it would do good, but that's just me. I'd put him.
I mean, we're going to keep going back, so hopefully he'll give us more.
Yeah,
I would put him in our prayer list box tomorrow when I go to church, just to hopefully give him some kind of spiritual comfort from all the way out here in Hawaii.
No, that would be.
I don't think it matters where you are,
No,
I don't think the spirit realm works quite the same. I think, they can get wherever they need to go pretty quickly, but it's just sad that he's trapped in a broom closet. He's almost like he's Harry Potter, right? He's under the stairs in that little cupboard, and except he's not got a big fat kid jumping up and down on the steps, kind of tormenting him day and night, but still. It's got to be lonely, man. The only thing that you've got there with you is the spirit of this cat that's roaming around, and who knows if he's even aware of the cat and the cat's aware of him. We don't understand that plane of existence.
Yeah, where's that crossover? Well, when we find out, it'll be too late to tell anyone. So,
ain't that the truth? But I just hope he finds some kind of peace, because you could just sense the pain in it as he's talking to you.
Oh yeah, you could feel it.
Yeah, so we're gonna, to put a summary on all of that investigation. The first time around, because we weren't with him by ourselves long enough the second time around. But the way I'd end that is to say to be continued, right? Because like I say, we're gonna have many more opportunities to go back with him and without all of the other people, and hopefully find out more about him. And anything that we find out, we would love to share with you guys.
Yeah, like I said, I get moved out back that way. I'm only a 3-hour drive from Pittsburgh. So
That's
I can come out there and just
well.
tag
And I'll
along.
be honest with you,
Be like,
a lot of
hey, Dave.
are in Ohio. So I said a lot of the places we investigate are in Ohio.
It's very true.
So it'll be even shorten your drive a little bit, you know.
Yeah, but I'd like to go here because I feel like, I would love to just sit and talk to Dave too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Be like, hey, brother,
Yeah.
you got whatever you got to say. I'll stay here and listen to it.
Yep. Feel like I know you.
Suck all the battery energy out of me you can. I'm a big boy. I got plenty to give. Just not too much. I want to stick around for my granddaughter at least. Yeah, I don't think I told you that, did I, Derek? I told Dan earlier.
No,
yeah,
I didn't hear that.
My daughter's expecting in August, so I'm going to be a grandfather.
Oh, that's awesome! Congratulations.
Thank you. I've already nicknamed her Sweet Pea because we got pictures the other day from the ultrasound, and she looked like a little bean pod in there, right? So I call her Sweet Pea now.
I love it. When she due?
Huh?
When is she due?
She's actually due. It's so funny. So my oldest son's birthday is August 4th, and my granddaughter is going to be born on August 4th.
Wow.
So now I got 2 birthdays back to back. But the thing with Ashton's he's 25, so
okay.
Just get a pack of socks and a pat on the back. But but yeah,
it's exciting.
So we got Karita Miller says because Ohio is awesome. Yep.
Karita.
Oh, I could do the hi for Ohio State. God, I hope we win the national championship on Monday.
Yep.
And then we got somebody in private chat. Oh, that was you, Derek. They said I just tossed up that thermal video on the Google Drive.
Hey, I'm always looking for the next thing up,
Let's go back to that. So where would that be? Recordings?
I tossed it up a while ago. Yeah, it was under the main podcast one, and then it was under other. It's a folder up. But that was from that hotel that we talked about last time we were on with you.
Oh, so I got the message late, huh?
Yeah, it's all good.
No worries. But yeah, man, just to go back to that room, dude,
yeah, man, it's big, right? It's big, dude. I really do think that.
I think out of all your all's investigations, this has been the one where you've kind of made that breakthrough to the other side.
I think you're right.
Jim Morrison, as Jim Morrison once said in a famous song, "Break on through to the other side."
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt in that.
Man, it just blowed me away. That's like the clearest. I mean, I've watched like Zach Bagan's old Ghost Chad, as I referred to him. And I like Jason Hawes. Over the years, I think Jason's got a little bit more legitimate now. He's got a YouTube channel. I had to send you all the link, and he talks about what happened with ghost hunters and how when some of the he found out that some of the evidence was getting faked and how that caused a rift between him and Grant.
Yep.
Because Grant was kind of okay in this stuff without going through Jason too, and they were a partnership. Just like if Dan was to go over your head on a show, or Derek, you do the same. I mean, you kind of feel betrayed. You feel betrayed in that.
And there's no going back from something like that.
Yeah. So
it's not that hard to go over Derek's head because he's short.
I wouldn't feel it anyway.
So on this site in 1897, nothing happened. Oh, I love the honesty of you Yinzers. I am jealous though because y'all get to have Primanti Brothers sandwiches and I don't because I'm stuck out here in Hawaii.
Yeah, when you're
Overrated.
in I could not tell you the last time I had a Primanti Brothers sandwich. It was probably high school.
I've been doing well to lose weight. I went from almost 300 pounds a year and 2 months ago. Well, 14 months. Be correct there, John. And I went for my physical day before yesterday, and I'm down to 225.
Wow,
So
good on you. You look great.
But every time I would watch a Steelers game and they would talk about the Primanti brothers, and I'm like, shut up, please. I just want one so bad.
We can get one in the mail to you.
Look, I don't want money. I just want a sandwich covered in French fries and meat. That's all I want.
What more do you want in life?
Such good food in that city, I swear.
That's why we're all fat. Well, Derek's not.
I'm catching up.
I'd probably be fat in a heartbeat if I went back. See, man, that's just what I say. If I was to go in this place, I'd be in awe because I love all this old stuff, old phones, old trains, toy trains, and old tools.
Oh yeah, and
I just love
it. Seems endless. I mean, you saw the shelves that they have there. It's just kind of stacked in there because they ran out of room.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now that gives me a little bit more perspective, man. Dave, I feel bad for you, my friend. You just living in a broom closet. Wow. And he doesn't go throughout any other part of this place. He just stays confined to this area.
No, not well. At first, we thought that, but on our return trip, we had some interaction with him further back in the back room because that's where we think we had contact with him the very first time when he said the name Schmidt. We believe that was in that very back room, and then we also had some interaction with him the second time in the very back room. Not a lot because there were other people with us the second time, but whenever you get him to that front room is when he really opens up because then it's just you and him. You know, there's no other.
Yeah, you definitely get that one-on-one personal experience right there. There's nowhere else to go. You're staring at him right in the eye, you know.
That's what I say, man. That right there. My grandmother was a nurse back in the Great Depression era and stuff, and that just reminds me of. I can swear I've seen that figurine before, and I want to say it was an old Red Cross figurine, if I remember correctly. Who knows? We have a train museum here in Hawaii from back during the old days when they used to ship sugarcane from the farms out here and pineapple and stuff down to the port. And every time you ride by that, I swear up and down, I'm like, man, I know that's got to be haunted. All the people that died on them farms and out in the sugarcane fields and all the stuff. The people that died on the trains from maybe a boiler explosion or something on there. Not just like that sign. That should be what I should have hanging on the door to my apartment. In this place, nothing happens. It doesn't.
I love that sign.
I'm a boring person. I kind of all I do is read or watch stuff and do YouTube videos. I'm really not that interesting of a person. What did she say? Go Bucks, tomorrow is the night. Yep. Can't wait. Hopefully we'll beat Notre Dame. Better. If Ryan Day wants to keep his job.
All right, John. I think we're kind of going to be pushing it for time here.
But you're nearing the doghouse hour, so I ain't all in trouble.
Yes, we are. My wife and daughter are coming down the stairs right now, so I think that's my cue.
That's your sign.
That's my sign to wrap it up.
Well, guys, like I said, it's always a pleasure to have you all on.
It's always great to be on, John.
Yeah, John.
I always enjoy sitting here, and I never not learn anything every time I have y'all on. And thanks for making me almost cry a few times. That would have been a first for me on YouTube.
We'll try a little harder next time. We'll take care of it.
You should have seen me today. My daughter let me hear the heartbeat from my granddaughter. I bawled like a little. Yeah.
I cried when I heard my daughter's heartbeat the first time.
Except I don't cry at like movies and stuff. I'm not like, oh Yeller, they shot old Yeller. I don't get like that. But as I said, it's always a pleasure to have you guys on. Hope
it's always great to connect.
Keep doing this thing, and hopefully I'll get out to the Buckeye State and be closer to you all, and I can come out to Yensertown and visit, because I do want to go to some Steeler games. Hear Renegade in person, and
you let us know when you make it out.
And I want an Iron City beer. I know you all probably don't like it, but I haven't had it in so long. I want one.
I have no problem with it. I'll drink anything as long as someone else is buying
it. We just got to get that sponsor, man. That's all.
That's it. I love Iron City beer. It's the
best. Well, all right, fellas. It's always been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Happy hunting to you all. May you all find peace for him and some kind of reconciliation for him that he can just pass on to the other side.
Yes, sir.
And guys, everybody that's joined us on this live stream today, I hope you learned something, and maybe you got misty-eyed like me listening to that EVP. And thank you for always joining me and supporting the channel, supporting these guys here at Iron City Paranormal. Go follow them on the old social medias. They got a website. I think y'all's website address changed, didn't it?
It did. It was changed from .com to .org, so it's IronCityParanormal.org. Yeah.
Okay.
.org is cheaper.
So they got all their case files and stuff are normally on there. Go that, and if you can't find them, go to my website and go down to the drop-down bar, and I've already got them right there. It says Iron City Paranormal. Takes you directly to their website,
which we appreciate.
But no, not a problem. You all are family, so
thank you, sir.
I'm gonna let you all go so I don't get nasty texts from your wives. Tell them I send tell them John sends much love and aloha from Hawaii. And as always, guys, we'll see you again on the next live stream. Later, fellas.
See ya.
See ya.